heart-wrenching reality of terror in Kashmir. Terrorists opened fire from a mosque to target security forces in Kashmir, killing this 3-year-old child's grandfather.
कार में 65 ईयर ओल्ड एक बशीर साहब जा रहे थे, उसके गाड़ी में एक छोटा बच्चा था, वो पैनिकली गाड़ी से निकल के बच्चा को लेकर भागना चाहा, उनको भी गोली लग गया। उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा काम किया, अपनी जान को हथेली में डाल के फायरिंग के बीच में जाके बच्चों को वहां से रेस्क्यू किया।
Treacherous Chinese collude with Pakistan. Pakistan mobilizes forces in Pak-occupied Kashmir. Is India prepared for conflict on multiple fronts? That's our top focus on India First.
So India has war-gamed 2.5 fronts, but is it now time for those war games to be put in action? India is facing hostilities not just with treacherous Chinese in the north and the east, but also a very hostile Pakistan in the north and the west. And of course, the enemy within Pakistan, state-sponsored terror in Jammu and Kashmir and perhaps other parts of the country. We have two of the finest voices on matters military and strategy joining us on the broadcast. We have Lieutenant General Satish Dua, former Chief of Integrated Defence Staff, joining us on the show. Also, Professor Brahma Chilani, he keeps a hawk eye on China. I'm Gaurav Sawant, action-packed, 30 minutes lined up. Let's get started. India is taking a number of non-kinetic steps to send across that message to China that transgression, trade and talks cannot happen simultaneously. Now, the Ministry of Surface Transport and Highways, Road Transport and Highways, has said that Chinese companies or those with shares and holdings with Chinese companies will not be permitted to bid for road transport contracts in India. That's one big signal being sent out by India. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari said Chinese investors will also not be entertained in the micro, small and medium enterprises sector. Not only this, the government has also now instructed both BSNL and MTNL to cancel 4G tenders which may have Chinese bidders. The government is saying no Huawei and no ZTE in 4G tenders. Remember, it's 4G just as yet. The government has been directed not to buy any goods from any Chinese firm when it comes to the telecom sector. So a lot of signals, a lot of very clear signals being sent out to China as the two armies face each other in Ladakh and perhaps now also in Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim along with Uttarakhand in the Barahoti sector. I quickly want to cut across to India today. Shiv Arur joining us for more on this big story. Shiv, what's the signal that the government has sent out? What all has Nitin Gadkari said?
As you can see, Gaurav, the damage is going to keep piling up, and these are very, very hard decisions. There's a lot more to happen, but every step is something that definitely hurts China where it least likes to be hurt, which is as far as money, dollars and cents and the economy is concerned. You had the 59 apps that were banned. That has its own damage. Then you've got now the road and transport sector that's closed the doors on Chinese business. MSME sector that the government says no Chinese money will be allowed. Very big decision on the the 4G tenders which have to be refloated by MTNL and BSNL to keep out the Chinese is a huge decision. But the biggest decision that continues to be not taken just yet but could be in the pipeline is whether Huawei and ZTE technologies, which have just been banned by the United States and designated as a national security threat there, will be shown the door here in India as well. Let's remember that as far as the 5G, the crucial 5G rollout is concerned, which is worth many tens of billions of dollars here in India, will India bite the bullet like the United States and show Huawei and ZTE and several other companies the door. It's easier said than done, and that's why I imagine everything is being taken one step at a time, Gaurav. But the clear message is, while the militaries continue to be in confrontation, it's not like India is only staring at the border. It has other weapons, and it knows precisely what hurts China, and it's dollars and cents.
Weaponizing the economy is a very, very important and a significant step needs to be taken. The Chinese should know that we value every soldier's life. We've lost 20 braves. China may not talk about 40, 45 or whatever number of soldiers the Communist Party may have lost, but in India we value the lives of our soldiers, and transgressions and trade cannot happen simultaneously. That's the message. But what's happening along the line of actual control? More than 12 hours of marathon talks between the generals of India and China in the Ladakh sector. These talks happened in Chushul. Now, while there is an in-principle agreement about disengagement and reducing tensions along the LAC, China appears to be building up. But is this build-up only coercive measures? Because top generals say that this isn't the kind of strength that China would need in case it wants to try something. If they try to come in, there will be consequences for China. But the other threat is that the Pakistanis are also building up. Perhaps they've been told by their masters in China to build up and add pressure, and then of course terror within.
57 days of non-stop confrontation in eastern Ladakh. And while generals on both sides spent 12 hours discussing disengagement on Tuesday, it's precisely the opposite that's happening on the ground. In the latest development, China has deployed 2 additional divisions of its mechanized forces along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. The Indian security forces are also keeping a hawk eye on the movement of Chinese troops in the rear positions in Tibet, where an additional 10,000 troops have been holding an exercise for some time now. In response, the Indian Army has shifted 3 divisions, including 30,000 troops and frontline strike weaponry like tanks, infantry combat vehicles and artillery to Ladakh. And in the most serious friction point of Pangong So, the army will soon receive high-performance boats to escalate patrolling in response to the Chinese build-up there.
The big Indian Army mobilization has been an ongoing process as a response to the Chinese aggression in eastern Ladakh. And this is in keeping with the threat perception that China wants to push things to the brink. However, this troop build-up isn't restricted to the line of actual control.
As India had expected, and validating India Today's report last week, the Pakistan army has also mobilized 2 divisions of troops, about 20,000 strong, along the Gilgit-Baltistan area, producing a 2-front scenario to the Indian military.
It's a fact that Pakistan's deployment along the line of control today is more than what it was even after the Balakot airstrikes. This is an indicator that Pakistan is doing this on China's orders, an order that Pakistan can ill afford to ignore. The fact remains, at this point of time, India is facing hostilities on 2 borders. Pakistan on the north and the west, China north and east. A threat that's big on 2 fronts.
In yet another front, Indian intelligence alarms have sounded on Chinese efforts to revive Pakistan's Al-Badr terror group in order to escalate violence in J&K. What India therefore faces is more than a 2-front war, with 2 nuclear neighbors in a hostile axis and with both looking to pour fuel on terror activity. With Kamaljeet Sandhu and Manjeet Negi in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me now on the broadcast is India Today's Abhishek Bhalla, joins us live from Leh. General Satish Dua and Brahmachalani with me on the broadcast. But Abhishek, to you first. 12 hours of marathon talks. When India and China talk about disengagement and de-escalation, is there a roadmap? And can India trust China after what happened on the 15th of June? What is the verification method in place?
Gaurav, there's extremely trust deficit between the 2 countries as of now, and whatever has been discussed last evening, the same things were discussed previously on the 22nd of June, and those things have been reiterated once again, that disengagement will take place, de-escalation will take place, but things on the ground don't really resemble whatever is being discussed. There have been a series of military level talks now, but there has been a true build-up from both the sides, and whatever was told to us was the outcome of this dialogue last evening. It's very ambiguous because it doesn't clearly state out what the roadmap is. The reason for that is because, you know, in the previous occasions, China did not adhere to what was decided, and it did not translate on the ground. That's the reason why sources say that this is a long haul. While discussions will continue, dialogue will continue, but as far as moving back is concerned, Indian Army is not going to do that because they cannot trust China and these talks that have
but the
happened
bigger focus
in the past
is,
for
while
over
Indian
1
Army
month
stays
now,
there,
and
the
three.
Indian Army needs to push the Chinese back on the other side of the line of actual control. That is what our real focus should be while we remain in eyeball to eyeball confrontation. But General Dua, is a two-front war, 2.5 fronts. You've war-gamed it, but is that likely to happen? Could that happen?
The news that Pakistan Army has mobilized 20,000 is what I'm hearing in the Gilgit-Baltistan area across the line of control is something that I have only gathered from the news. I have no way of confirming or negating the information. Whether or not that is the actual position, the fact that China and Pakistan have been colluding in many areas, the fact, and that is the reason why Indian Army is prepared for a two-front war. A 2.5 front because we also include the proxy war of export of terror across the line of control. Let us also remember that I don't think it was many days ago, I think it was last week, that a refueler landing was carried out by China in the Gilgit-Baltistan area. We've also seen a similar sort of build-up that took place when Balakot happened. So whether or not we know this news to be very credible or the numbers to be credible, the fact of the matter is that this is something that Indian Army is prepared for. We have trained for it, planned for it, and Indian Army is ready in all contingencies.
Fair enough. Brahmachalani, several generals I've spoken to say that the Chinese may have mobilized a couple of mechanized and motorized divisions, but given the extent, 830 kilometers, and the way Indian Army is deployed, this isn't for the Chinese army to come in, it's to send out a signal, because if they were to come in, there'd be consequences for the Chinese army. Is this more psyops? Is this more psychological warfare that the Chinese are doing at this stage?
At the moment, without firing a single shot, China has been encroaching on Indian territory, and in a very successful manner. In late April, they encroached in 3 areas, and in more recent days, while talks on de-escalation have been underway, they have encroached on Devsang Plateau, and they've also encroached on the site where their clashes occurred on June 15th. That site where the clashes occurred is now in PLA's control. They have even built permanent structures near that site. So we have to ask ourselves as to how China is able to encroach, even as talks are underway, even as India is mobilizing its forces. I think it's because we have constrained our forces. You know, we have told our forces not to escalate. That allows the PLA to keep escalating its incursions. We have to put a stop to this. And the only way to put a stop to this is to pay back in kind. It's important for India now to be on the offensive. By that I don't mean to wage war. it's important for the Indian armed forces to grab Chinese claimed territory. If India does not grab Chinese territory, India will remain on the defensive. The PLA will keep encroaching in areas where...
Very good point you're making. Very good point you make. And General Dua, Brahmachalani is absolutely right. Brahmachalani is absolutely right. You know, we are on the defensive. The Chinese say, okay, let's disengage, but disengage and, reduce tension, de-escalate while they are on our territory. And that should be unacceptable to us. Is it then time for India to either take Chinese territory or take some action that the Chinese will know we mean business and we are not on the defensive?
Look, the talks that are taking place are setting down protocols and timelines for disengagement. On the 6th June, the talk that took place in a process of verification. It's a very step-by-step process which requires detailed verification. Once a particular structure or a particular movement has taken place, it is verified by pictures, by drones, and by physical verification. During one such physical verification patrol at Galwan, things turned ugly. So this disengagement also does get prickly at times. Things turned ugly, and thereafter the whole process was put on hold. What happened thereafter for a couple of weeks, we all know about it. So this process, again, yesterday also the 12 hours or more than 12 hours talks have taken place. A disengagement process has been sort of reconfirmed, and it is going to be a long drawn out process if we continue very smoothly without any prickly issues. So if that process has to be given time, it will take time. At such a moment,
I have breaking news that's coming in.
My point, last sentence.
Okay, General, give me a moment. I have breaking news coming in from the United States of America. General, the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has responded and he's reacted to India banning 59 Chinese apps. Take a look at this information that's just coming in. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has appreciated India's decision to ban 59 Chinese apps and said that India's clean app approach will boost India's sovereignty and boost integrity and security. India's banned 59 apps, China's mouthpiece, Global Times, has said that China may face a loss as high as $6 billion because of this. I want to bring in Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan for more on this. Geeta, take us through what Mike Pompeo has said, and America has also apparently taken action against both Huawei and ZTE. Geeta.
Well, that's right, Gaurav. Under the same very critical national security framework, the United States of America acted against Huawei and ZTE, and India acted against 59 Chinese apps. So the policy framework of both the countries have been the same. It's the national security framework under which India and US have acted, and that's the reason why the US has come out welcoming the decision by which will not allow surveillance by the Chinese CPC.
Fair enough. Brahmachalani, the steps that India is taking at this point of time, whether it's banning Chinese apps or forbidding Chinese from bidding for our road transport contracts or no role in 4G, perhaps hopefully even 5G, what message goes from these actions, if at all?
We have to keep in mind that for China, trade has long been a political weapon. It has weaponized trade against several countries: Mongolia, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, even against India in the past. And its coercive toolkit includes export and import restrictions, tourist bans, and other non-tariff instruments. But in the trade relationship with India, China doesn't have much leverage. It is India that has the leverage because China enjoys a huge $60 billion trade surplus in its favor. India can leverage its buying power to impose economic costs on Beijing. I think the Indian government's ban on 59 Chinese mobile apps is just the first shot. It's a warning shot across China's bow. prohibiting Chinese companies from participating in highway projects is just a symbolic announcement because there are no Chinese companies at the moment involved in highway projects in India. But I think the steps that the government of India is planning, if it were to carry out those actions cumulatively will impose serious economic costs on China and drive home the message that China's aggression carries significant geopolitical costs.
Fair enough. And General Dua, these actions must be followed through. It's not as if tomorrow, if there's another informal summit, it's all, hunky-dory with China. Considering we've lost 20 soldiers, they may have lost more, but that's not as important as the fact that perhaps now our country realizes that China is no friend of ours and in no way will ever be a friend of ours given China's actions, sir.
Absolutely. We require a whole of nation approach, and I'm very glad that these steps have been taken. Very strong steps have been taken by banning those apps and a couple of the other announcements that have been made, which you just pointed out and Dr. Brahmacharani commented on. While we have these actions on one side, on the other hand, while the disengagement process is on, we give peace a chance, but it does not mean that we've lowered our guard. Our preparations continue, and we are, whether it is a two-front war or a 2.5-front bogey, the Indian Army is absolutely ready. And I think a very strong statement has already gone out that India is no pushover in any dimension or in any field.
Oh, absolutely. And that's so visible even on ground. And as you very rightly pointed out, 2.5-front bogey, given the fact that India is actually giving terrorists grief even as we speak in Jammu and Kashmir at the line of control. Pakistan doesn't even have the money to mobilize a division and bring it on the India line of control. That's a big point. There's more breaking news that's coming in, and this time it's from the Ministry of Home Affairs right behind me. The Ministry of Home Affairs has put 9 people on the UAPA terror list. The Ministry of Home Affairs has declared 9 persons as terrorists under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. These 9 people have been associated with different terrorist and separatist organizations. On the 1st of June, one of those designated included Gurpatwant Singh Pannu of SFJ, an organization that wrote to Xi Jinping saying that the Khalistanis will support China against India. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Munish Pandey. Munish, what more can you add?
Well, Gaurav, this is a very crucial development. What we have been given to understand by our sources in the Ministry of Home Affairs that these individuals are foreign-based terrorists. Now, 4 of these individuals are in Pakistan, and they are in direct link with Pakistan's intelligence agency ISI. Now, the Indian intelligence agencies recently received an information that they are trying to wage a war against India. They are trying to infiltrate terrorists within India, and that is why this step has been taken. But what is more important here is that Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, who is in US, and he wrote a letter to the Chinese premier on June 1 that he wants to support China in waging a war against India. So, of course, this is a development which is, given a priority of security in country. It has been taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and now these 9 individuals are designated terrorists under UAPA.
For the moment, many thanks for joining me. So this Pannu wrote to the Chinese President Xi Jinping saying he wants to support China against India. Look, one thing remains a fact, as all our guests have said, that India is strong. India needs to stare the dragon down, and democracies across the world will unite against China, increasingly behaving like a dictator, especially Xi Jinping there. We'll get you more on that story in the days and weeks to come, but that is all I have time for on the show this evening. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.